Hulk Hogan's personal lawyer testifying he and his client, whose real name is Terry Bollea, did this interview with TMZ when the now infamous sex tape was just a rumor.
Well, first of all, welcome.
Yeah, first of all, guys, there were several rumors, okay? Let's at least get that.
David Houston telling the jury, all joking aside, he and the Hulkster had a very clear agenda.
I mean, the whole purpose was to get the word out.
Knock out anyone who might be tempted to publish it. But 5 months later, in October 2012, Gawker.com did what no other media outlet dared. The man behind the post labeled NSFW, or Not Safe for Work, Editor in Chief at the time, Daulerio, in a recorded deposition saying he couldn't wait to publish the sex tape after receiving it from an anonymous source.
I enjoyed watching the video because I found it very amusing.
Daulerio testifying he didn't call Hogan or Clem before putting it up on the site.
So it's fair to say that whether he suffered emotional distress or not, that played no part in your decision about whether and what to publish.
Correct.
Lawyers asking him if there's any celebrity sex tape he wouldn't consider newsworthy.
They were a child.
Under what age?
4.
But Gawker calling the outrageous remark flip, saying it was made only after he'd already said he wouldn't post a tape of a child. Lawyers also asking Gawker Media founder Nick Denton whether he thought posting the video would be distressing to Hogan.
No, I didn't.
And why not?
Because my job is to send that information, and that's our social function.
Team Hogan also put a college professor on the stand who told the jury that Gawker's post violated nearly every principle of ethical journalism. But Gawker prides itself on having different journalistic standards, and it has not even begun to present its case in court. George?
Okay, Lindsay, thanks. Let's talk about this now with Dan Abrams, our chief legal analyst, and Nancy Grace, the host of Nancy Grace on HLN. And Nancy, let me begin with you. Pretty startling moment in that deposition right there on where Gawker would draw the line.
Yes, it was very startling, and that's certainly putting perfume on the pig to say that your line, your gold standard is that you would not post a sex tape of a child under 4. Now, the Gawker's argument is that that was being flip and sarcastic, but even being flip and sarcastic, that is not going to go down well with that jury, and it lifts the veil on the mentality at Gawker when they put out the Hulk Hogan sex tape.
Right, and Dan, that can't win them many friends, but underneath this, Gawker has a relatively strong case.
Right, so look, this was a bad day for Gawker. Remember, they're taking depositions that were given before, cutting them up and presenting them as part of the plaintiff's case. Both these guys are probably going to end up testifying in the case where they'll have more time to explain things.
Say I was joking around or
right,
whatever.
or whatever. But look, the real risk for Gawker here as a legal matter is that these jurors put Gawker on trial in general, as opposed to focusing on the very specific question here about this tape, this context, this question. And if I'm Gawker, the one thing I'm really worried about is that the jurors become so angry at what Gawker does that they simply want to punish them. And I'm sure that that's what their lawyers are worried about as well.
I would not put them back on the stand. They may do it, Dan. You may be right on that, but I wouldn't put those two on the stand. They're radioactive, and imagine what will happen on cross-examination. And you know what? Speaking of the testimony in court, I thought Hulk Hogan did a great job. It's not Hulk Hogan that you used to see in the ring with the WWE. This is the private Hulk, Daulerio. And I think he came across as measured and calm, and it's not what people would have expected.
Yeah, I thought Hulk Hogan was okay. I didn't think he was great. I think this whole distinction between I get to pick when I'm Hulk Hogan versus when I'm Terry Bollea is not a particularly...
You think Gawker not going on the stand is an option?
No. I think there's no question Nick Denton will take the witness stand in this case. No question about it. He has to take the stand. You can't just let them put clips of your deposition without providing context. In fact, Nick Denton is a much more important witness in the context of this case than Terry Bollea / Hulk Hogan. Meaning, Hulk Hogan's testimony, yes, it's relevant, yes, it's important, but the most important question in this case is why did Gawker do what it did? What were they thinking? What was the reasoning behind
Dan,
it?
I
What was the
think
context?
that what you're saying legally is absolutely correct because this case is against them and you've got to get their reasoning. But in my mind, when I am speaking to a jury, what's going to matter is how did this affect Hulk Hogan? Is he believable? Was he really damaged?
Yeah, how did it affect?
And I just found him to be pretty sincere.
That assumes liability, and we're already to damages.
And that's all we have time for today. That was great, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.